About 12 ways to jumpstart your marketing for 2019. My name is Cheryl Pederzoli. I'm on the marketing team here at CPA Site Solutions, and I'm really excited to be going through this with you today because this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. How to prepare. There's things that you should be reviewing today. Actually, things you should review on a regular basis. But things to kind of review before you go into the new year to make sure you're starting everything off on the right foot. Then we're going to kind of reflect and talk about what have you done in the past and how did that perform and how you can measure it so you can understand your own personal success. And then finally, we'll talk about ideas you can use to jumpstart your marketing going into the new year. So first, things you need to be reviewing. Well, honestly, you need to review everything. A lot of times people kind of get into a mode where you just keep moving forward and you don't think to go back and double check that the things that you've already done are still accurate. I'll give you an example. Everybody's Facebook profile. I was looking at mine about a month ago and realized it says I have 2 beautiful children. Well, my 3rd child turned 4 in May. So even I, who is always looking at profiles and things like that, completely missed the fact that I haven't touched my profile review, my overview in a couple of years. So it's one of those things that's important to do. So let's talk about what you should be looking at. Well, on your website, there's a lot of things. First off, make sure you're checking all the photos on your website. If there's anything that's outdated, you want to get rid of it. Or if you've got, examples, picture of all your staff members, make sure you have current ones. And if you have any that are no longer there, they're pulled off. You also want to make sure that they're good, high-quality photos. They don't look grainy when you're looking at them. And if you use stock imagery, make sure that the photos actually make sense for who you are, who your audience is, even geographically where you are. You always want to double-check your contact and your service information. If you've added any new services, you want to make sure you're talking about it. And especially looking at your basic information, address, phone numbers, emails, staff. Directions are a really good example. Sometimes there's road construction going on and it's changed the direction. It's changed the traffic flow going to your office. Double check and make sure if you have those directions are still accurate. I also recommend you take a look at your client testimonials. Make sure everybody is still a client. There's nothing worse than having someone quoted on your website that's not a client but might be a client for someone else and have given them a testimonial. People are going to look at the 2 different websites, especially if they're comparison shopping, and kind of question the credibility of both of the firms. And then you want to make sure that your site is mobile friendly or responsive. So if somebody pulls up their site on your phone, it actually displays well. You don't have to pinch and zoom in order to be able to see everything. And this is more important than ever, and I'm still amazed that we hear that people don't have mobile sites. And one of the reasons it's so important is that Google prioritizes mobile sites over non-mobile friendly ones. So if you have a site that's not mobile friendly, but the person who's working up the block does, their site's going to show up higher in the search results over yours. So it's really important to make sure you have a mobile friendly site. You also want to review your online directories. So if you don't have your profiles already claimed, you want to make sure you go and do that. So especially the ones that are a little bit more used by other people, Google My Business, Yelp, Angie's List, make sure that you've claimed your listings, the information on it is consistent. You want to have good contact information. Some of these sites like Yelp, people can review your business and you won't actually have any ownership of it, which means you don't have information that's going to help them come back to you if there's great reviews. And then we also encourage you to respond to reviews. Even if it's not something you do regularly, it is something you should do periodically. Make it look as though you're paying attention to the reviews, you care about the reviews, and you're actually listening to what people say. It's going to make it so that people are more likely to actually want to do business with you. The next thing you should review before you get started in the new year are your social media profiles. So make sure you've claimed those listings. Even if you're not going to use them, you want to still claim them so nobody else can go in there and take those listings and potentially put up information that's not accurate. So claim your Facebook page, LinkedIn profile page, business page, your Twitter, all the social networks that seem appropriate for your business. You want to make sure that you've expanded and optimized your description of services. So talk about all the things that you do And make sure people understand it so that if they are going through and asking for recommendations and somebody's sharing your page, they can see, oh yeah, these guys can help me. And then we also encourage you, again, just like with the online reviews, even if you're not frequently going in and reviewing and responding to comments, make sure you do it periodically. So go and see, has anybody asked a question that you haven't answered? Has anybody left a review that you haven't thanked them for? Those little things do make a big impact. Then the last things that we want you to make sure that you're doing and reviewing before we go into the new year is a little bit of admin and technical stuff. So you want to make sure you actually have access to all of those profiles, your business listings and your social media profiles. I know it sounds like a weird thing to say, but there's so many times when people have somebody in their office set up a page, set up their Facebook page or their Google My Business page, and then that person leaves and they never take and transfer that ownership to somebody else, or they never bring somebody else in. On some of these, you can have multiple people who are admins. They never bring anybody else in. So you want to make sure that you have the access. And if anybody has access who's no longer with you, make sure they get cut off. Make sure they're not able to do that. Even if you don't think they're going to do anything harmful to you, you still don't want them potentially working for a competitor and seeing who likes you and who makes comments and things like that. You want to make sure you keep that information private. And then the last thing is make sure you have tracking set up on your website. Google Analytics and Google Search Console are the two that we really recommend everybody has, because that's going to give you a really good overview of what's going on and how your website's performing. So let's talk a little bit about how do you measure what's been happening? How do you know where to move forward from? So we recommend you take a look at all of the marketing efforts you went through in the last year. Ideally a past year, but it might be something where you can only think back a couple of months. So actually list them out. Get out an Excel spreadsheet. Just start typing out, what did you do? And don't only type out the things that you have spend against. Also think about those things you don't have spend against. For example, maybe you have somebody who's dedicating time to Facebook. There's no cost necessarily, but there is some time, and you'll be able to actually see a return on that time if it's paying off. So you want to include everything that could help bring new clients into your office. So, second step is, now that you've identified all of those, you got to figure out, how are we tracking those, or how have you been tracking those? So there's some examples here. If you've got a website, you can see how much traffic you're getting to your website. How many visits did you have? How many form completions did you have? You can even see what sites are coming there if you're using Google Analytics. If you're using a phone number on some of your marketing campaigns, it's a unique way where you can actually say, this particular ad uses this phone number, this other ad uses a different phone number. And then you can see how many phone calls in do you get on all of those different lines. So you want to figure out, how can you track the results of all of these different efforts? And then I'm sure you guys can see where this is going next. Then we want to actually say, how did it work? So these are all very, very rough example numbers, not at all accurate. This is just kind of some sample data so you can see how it plays out. But you can see, if I look at an effort such as my website, I know how much I spent on a annual basis, probably for my monthly hosting and maybe some other services. I can see how many forms were completed off the website. Based on that, I got maybe 250 form completions, or maybe some of those are form completions and some are phone calls where I asked somebody, how did you hear about me? And they said your website. So out of those prospects, how many actually became clients of mine? And then based on that, what's the average revenue? And the revenue number does not need to be exact. You're really just trying to get a good indication if this is a successful or a not successful channel for you to market through. So you might think, an average number of, on average, clients come in from this website or this type of client, and they give me this much revenue. Next, we're going to calculate the return on investment. So it's a simple formula. How much money is generated by your new clients, subtract the amount of money you spent on that advertising channel, and then divide it by the amount in order to get the return on investment. We've added that column to our spreadsheet here. So based on what we're seeing here, I can clearly go and say, which efforts worked for me in the past year, which efforts did not work for me. Oops, sorry. Let me get rid of that. So when I'm looking at those efforts, we've got different things such as, sorry, turning that off. We've got certain things that worked really well, such as a newspaper ad. And then we have other ones that didn't work very well, such as a different newspaper ad where there may have been an issue with the phone number. Or sometimes you just have a message that's not resonating. And using that, you can say, these are the things that worked for me. These are the things that did not work for me. And use that to make a judgment call about how to move your marketing moving forward. So next, let's talk about ways that you can actually accelerate your marketing going into 2019. So I just talked about the tracking and how important it is to be tracking all of the efforts that you have so that you can make a judgment call about what actually works. So if you're not tracking, that's one of the things that we highly encourage you to do because it's the only way to really know if this is going to be working or not for you. And it's a way to be able to look at multiple efforts and say it's worth spending my money here, but it's not worth spending it there. So if you're not tracking, here are some of the ways that you can do that. You can use tracking phone numbers. I mentioned that earlier. Use a different phone number on different efforts, especially the ones that are not digital. So things that are really hard to get a good, clear path of where somebody came to you from. So newspaper advertisements are a really good example. If you use coupon mailers, things like that. If you put a unique phone number, then you'll always be able to go back and say, yep, that effort gave me 30 phone calls. You can also train your staff. How did you hear about us? Ask people when they call in, when they're trying to make their appointment. How did you hear about us? Then make sure you capture the information and review it. You can ask any vendors that you work with. So maybe you have a marketing vendor, a consultant. They should be able to give you reports that show the effectiveness of what they're doing with you. You can also look at your website analytics. Everybody should have that set up based on our first section where we talked about the things you should have set up before you go into the new year. But it's a great way to understand if you're advertising online, if you're using paid search, if you're using just display ads in different places, those website analytics are going to be able to show you exactly where all of your traffic comes from. If you do engage in SEO and you have a provider for that, then that SEO provider should be able to give you reports that are going to show you what it is that they've done and how well it works. And then you can always create a separate website page. We call them landing pages. It's a page that's dedicated to a specific marketing effort. So as an example, when you do Google Ads, if you do Google Ads, you're going to want to have a separate landing page that people are going to. So that way you can say, anybody who hits this landing page I know came from that effort. It's very similar to how the tracking phone number works. But it's not just for those kind of things. You could also put your website URL in a newspaper ad and do something like my firm name / June special. And if somebody goes and visits that page, June special, you know that's where they found out about it. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it. And then, similar to what we looked at earlier, you're going to want to take and you're going to want to reconstruct the spreadsheet, but you're going to want to do it on a regular basis. Do it on a monthly basis so that you can actually make that call about what works, what doesn't work, and you can stop wasting money. For example, in here you can see, Google Ads. We've got 3 different types of Google Ads listed. Some of them are focusing on people looking for an accountant. Some are focused on a tax season, some on payroll services. You guys might be advertising multiple different ways, different types of focus points. When this person in the example was focused on the tax season, they lost money. And if you're monitoring this on a regular basis, you can stop that spend as soon as you realize it's not working out for you. So that's why it's really important to track, but then also use the information. So next, building on your success. So this is really taking those tactics that were the most successful for you and using them in the new year. So let's talk about something like Facebook ads. Maybe you tried out Facebook ads and they worked really well for you. Well, how are you going to expand on it? You can repeat it more often. You could look for other audiences that are similar and try different messaging. You could use the same offer in other places. So if that was a really great ad for you, maybe use that when you're doing Google Ads, or put that same verbiage on your website. So what you're doing is really thinking about that one effort that worked really well and how can you expand on it? How can you get more out of it? Google Ads, similar. If something worked really well, you can potentially find keywords that are similar that you can add to it. You can expand your geography potentially. If right now you're only showing ads in a 10-mile radius, maybe you go to a 15-mile radius. You could test different ads to see if you can improve on it. Sometimes even just little tweaks to a couple of words makes a difference. And if you know that you've got a good ad that works really well, just try to tweak on it a little bit here and there and see if you can make it even better. Or, with Google Ads, increase your budget. Maybe you're not showing up for every search that happens because you have a limited budget. Increase it if you know it's actually going to pay dividends on the back end for you. So, another tactic you can use to jumpstart your marketing in 2019 is to secure your website. We've talked about this for a while now here at CPA Site Solutions. There's so many people, though, who still haven't done this. And what this really means is that you're going to get a certificate that's going to tell people and help secure your website so it becomes an encrypted site. And people coming to visit can see that very, very clearly. They use this SSL certificate that tells the web browsers, and this is becoming a big deal because Google cares. If you're using a Chrome browser, Chrome seems to kind of lead right now as far as browser usage. And if you don't have a secure website, when you're looking at your Chrome browser and the URL, it's not going to show secure. Right now, kind of in that upper right area, you can see a little lock next to the website URL. It'll actually say not secure if your site isn't secure. And the important thing is Google is starting to prioritize, and Google is starting to show these secure sites above non-secure sites. And right now it's just starting. They're starting to kind of make a big fuss about this. But we expect that this is going to become very, very significant as time moves on. Very similar to when mobile sites first started coming out and people started talking about mobile sites. Within a couple of years, mobile sites were significantly prioritized over the other sites. In fact, Google only looks at the layout of mobile sites now. It won't even look at your desktop when it's trying to figure out which sites to present. So it's really important to make sure that if you haven't secured your website yet, do it. And it's a very easy, very simple, not very expensive thing to do. If you're using CPA Site Solutions, give us a call. We can talk you through it, how to get it added onto your website. If you're using another provider, any website provider should be able to provide this for you. So the next thing I'd love to do is competitive research. So I love going through and looking at how the competitors are positioning themselves, what people are saying about them, what people don't like about them, and then taking that and using it in my own marketing copy. So I highly suggest other people do this. So easiest way is, if you've got a specific competitor you're looking for, type their name into Google. What you're going to see, hopefully, is their business profile, but you're also going to see a link for Google reviews. You're probably going to see Facebook reviews. You should see Yelp reviews, and maybe even more than that. Read through it. Understand what it is that people are saying about your competitors. You should also understand what they're saying about you, but then take it and turn it and use it to your advantage. So along the left-hand side, you can see some examples of poor reviews. Things like, they changed the fees on me, they were arrogant, disappointing, better firms to work with. The top one, you could smell alcohol when you approached to shake my hand. So on the right-hand side, you can see, how do you turn this stuff to your advantage? So you talk about yourself. Our office has a professional approach and treats your business like its own. We offer a positive, relaxing, consultative, and helpful atmosphere with transparent pricing. And we treat your time and money as if it was your own. So it's really important to make sure that you use those comments in your copy. And an even better way to do this is if you can get your own testimonials if you have your own clients who can say the things that are contradicting, what the other people are failing at, use that in your marketing material, because having testimonials in your marketing materials is really important to offer some proof of why you guys are great. So the next thing to talk about is improving your online reputation. We all love and hate Google reviews and Yelp. It's great because if you've got a lot of stars, it's going to really pay off for you. But if you don't, it's sometimes a struggle. So think about two things, though. It's not only the prospective clients who want to see those reviews. It's also your current clients. And what I mean by that is if somebody goes and say they need your phone number, they go and type in the name of your firm, the city, so that they can get the phone number. On the right-hand side, even if you can't read a single thing on that page, I bet you those orange stars are standing out at you, right? Luckily, in this case, everybody's about a 3.5 to 4.5 stars on all of the review sites. But what if this was your firm and you only had 1.5 stars showing? And we're just talking about an existing client who is now seeing that you have only 1.5 stars and is questioning, do I really want to be doing business with these guys? They never questioned it before they went to look for your phone number, but now they're going to. So it's really important. So a couple things that you can do to improve your online reputation today. Make sure you claim your profile. It's always important to have control over that, to be the person who is actually out there and able to say, this is the information about my firm, this is what we do. You also want to respond to the reviews that are there currently. If they're good, if they're bad, you want to respond to them. And if they're bad reviews, all you really need to do is say some very simple thing like, I'm very sorry you had a bad experience. I'd like to talk to you more about it. Can you give me a call? Simple things like that. While you're trying to address the negativity there and doing it in a manner that's not going to be confrontational, the thing that's important is all the other people who go back and see are going to see that you care and that you actually do want to address that. And even if it's a bad review, that actually does help a lot. But what's really important is you want to try to ask people to get more reviews. So when you have a client in your office and they're happy and you can tell that they're really satisfied with the service, ask them, would you mind leaving me a review online on Google or Yelp or, whatever review site you're most preferred with. A lot of people use Facebook reviews too because everybody's on Facebook. It's very comfortable for them. And just ask them. You could even put a sign up. And the important thing is, if you've got a lot of bad reviews, or if you've even got a couple bad reviews, a lot of positive reviews are going to change the dynamic and bring that back up again. So like school grades, 5 A's and 1 D still equals an A minus. So that 1 D is going to be diminished because all of those other A's are going to bring the average up. So, like I said, ask your clients to leave a review. One of the things you can also do is on your own website, showcase those positive reviews. And then you can actually link to the review sites from there. You can add a link to those review sites from your email signature. So if you're communicating back and forth with clients, even if you're just sending out messages, periodically, you could have that link there to help encourage them to go and review you. You could also utilize reputation marketing services. And that's just a little bit more formal way of collecting reviews and then getting them posted out to the proper channels. So another strategy you can use to accelerate things for yourself in 2019 is to really focus on your search marketing. So search marketing is looking at organic and paid advertising to see how you result when you come out on Google or Bing or any of those paid channels. So what you want to look at is first understand, are you showing where you need to be showing? Think about the different kinds of keywords that people are going to be using in order to search for what your firm offers, and then go check it out. Just type it in, see where you show up in the placements for those particular things. The search listings are broken into 3 different areas. So the top is the paid. That's where you have to dish out some dollars in order to show. The next section that typically shows up is this business listing. These are based on your Google My Business. You kind of set up your profile of who you are, where you are, what your address is. That's what shows up in here. And then you have the organic listings. And the organic listings is what everybody is always pushing to try to get. There's two different strategies to get to these different places. So search engine optimization, that's really trying to develop your content on your website that's going to help ensure that when people are looking for the type of content you have, you naturally show up. That's the organic listings. You don't have to pay anything for it. You're just one of those websites that delivers the content that Google thinks people are looking for. The other is called pay-per-click advertising. And this is a way of using search engine advertising ability so that you show up above all of the other listings. And I should also say, it's not just above. When you scroll down a Google page, it's also at the bottom of the Google page. So you have to bid on how much you're willing to spend, and that'll put you, at the top, at the bottom, or maybe on page 5 if you're not willing to pay much. But what's great about it is it's a very targeted way of doing it. You only show for the keywords, the geographic area that you want to, and you say how much you're willing to pay. If you do decide that you want to work on your search listings, there's both strategies you can use either individually or together. So if you decide that you want to really focus on the immediate, on the right now, typically people will use that pay-per-click, the Google ads, because you can set up a campaign, and within 24 hours, you're up. You're showing up in those listings. If you want to focus in on SEO, which is that organic free growth, then you're going to start to work, but it's going to take time. Typically, an SEO campaign is going to take you 3 to 6 months before you really start to see those efforts. But a lot of people, you can't wait, but you ideally want to have the free listings. So you're going to combine the efforts. You're going to work on both SEO to kind of prepare you for the long term, and then have that pay-per-click ready to go so you're seeing those clients immediately. So an SEO campaign, just so you understand how that looks, what you really want to do is try to figure out what those keywords are that you're looking for, that looking to show up. And then you want to build pages that are dedicated to those services. So say you're looking for payroll services. You want to make sure that you have a page on your website that's really dedicated to that. You also can write a blog post. You can have content. You want to make sure that you're linking within your site using those pages. So an example is on your first page, if you have an introductory paragraph about who you are and what you do. We offer payroll services in Chicago. We also do this and that and this and that. Where those words payroll services are, you're going to link to that page, and that's going to help tell Google that this page is about payroll services because that's how my link is pointing to it. You're going to want to make sure that you try to get that content that you've developed linked to from outside sites also. So sharing the blog post or those articles on your social media pages, that's one way of doing it. We'll talk a little bit about backlinks also, because you really want people to understand that we talk about this, we're a credible source of information. Let's talk a little bit about pay-per-click again. So typically Google ads, some people use Bing ads, but Google ads still kind of remains the number one as far as what people are using because the search engine dominates still. So if you're doing pay-per-click, very similar process. You're going to build a web page that's dedicated to that service. You're going to sign up for your Google Ads account, or you can ask somebody to help you. There's a lot of service providers who can do that for you. You're going to select those keywords and phrases that you want to appear for. And it might be things that are a little bit more niche-y. If your accounting firm normally shows up in the results when somebody searches accounting firm in this area, you might not need to pay for that firm, that particular thing. But if there's a specific service you want to deliver, that's the keyword that you want to pay for, not where you naturally show up already. Then you determine your audience. There's a lot of different things that you can target on. You can target based on the geography. You can actually add in some demographic information. Google tries to make it so it's as appealing as possible. And then you set your budget. And you kind of just let it run. You monitor it, you tweak it. But those are pretty much the steps to getting it set up. You can see it's similar to SEO, except for the fact that the pay-per-click, as long as you're willing to pay for it, you're guaranteed to show up, which is something that you can't get a guarantee on the SEO. So, in conjunction with that, another strategy to implement is trying to get more backlinks this year. So backlinks are all of those other websites that are going to be linking to you. And the importance of this is it shows that you're an authoritative site. And that's what Google really wants to see, that you're an important site, not only to yourself, but an important site for others that are out there who are also considered important sites. So one of the things that you can do, or there's a handful of things you can do to generate more links to your site, submit your website to online directories. And when we talk about online directories, we're talking about free, credible directories. We're not talking about ones where you have to pay in order to have your links in there. And the reason for that is that paying for directory links, Google knows that people pay. They know it's not a credible source. And it's what they call black hat technique. If Google sees that you're getting involved in that, they're actually going to penalize you, and they can stop search results from pointing to you altogether. It's a horrible position to have to be in, where all of a sudden your website doesn't get any traffic because Google won't bring it to you. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything that's considered white hat, that's the right way to do things. So you can write a blog for someone in the industry. Maybe there's an association in the area that you can put a guest blog post onto. And in that post, you link back to your own website. You can answer questions on Q&A websites. You can join your local Chamber of Commerce or the Better Business Bureau. A lot of times they have directory sites and they're very credible sources. Make sure your social media profiles are good. And if you do use a service or piece of equipment, lots of different things, sometimes by writing a testimonial or a case study that they put on their website, they'll actually link back to yours as kind of a courtesy. And that's another great way to get a backlink. So we're slowly getting towards the end here. The next strategy we highly recommend people do is building a content calendar. So a content calendar is really a look forward at the next couple of months, the next couple of weeks, maybe even a year. It really depends on how comfortable you are. But trying to put together a cohesive plan of what you can say, when you're going to say it, and how all of those different things interact with each other. And the content itself that you're looking to do, it can be blog posts, it could be articles, it could be quizzes and polls. Those are pretty simple and easy to do. It could be a video. It could just be tips that you like to share out. So we suggest that you take a look at your calendar and then think about, how can I put together these efforts that are all going to work together? So for example, this is kind of a weekly plan. Monthly plan might work better for you depending on how much time you have to dedicate to this. But we're thinking about, what themes can we use? If we're going to put a post on our social media channels and you can have multiple posts, how could that run and how does that support my theme? And then can I have my advertising also support that? So if we look at that week of January 20th, the theme is tips on saving and investing. And we're using all of our different channels to help support that and to help carry that theme through, because as somebody sees the advertising, well, then they're going to go and visit my website to learn more about me. And when they get to the website, they're going to see a link to bring me to that blog article that helps reinforce it again. So it really helps to reinforce that message that you're an expert at what you're talking about and you can share that information. When you do look at the content calendar, there's good things and bad things to share. You don't want to do anything that's controversial. That's anything about politics that could really upset people or start a discussion that you don't want to go down. There's lots of good things, though, you can write about. Success stories, case studies, news, tips, articles that you may have written. We will send this list out to you guys, so don't feel like you need to write it all down again. All the slides will be sent out tomorrow morning. So the next thing that we recommend you do is review your client communications. So in the client communications, we're talking about those things that you reach out to your clients with to try to build a relationship, to have a good, solid ground that they're trusting you and they're talking about you to other people. So thinking about, what do your current communications look like? Do you have people who don't show up for appointments? Do you schedule them and have a plan and they just don't show up? How are you talking to them? Are you just sending out emails? Are you using phone calls? Are you using everything you could? And are the communications proactive or reactive? Do you only talk to people when they call you first? Or do you actually go out there and try to be, say the term friend, try to be their friend, but you try to be their advisor. You try to be the person that they want to rely on. So here's just some examples of different ways you can communicate and what those types of things are good for. So for example, email is a great way to communicate on lots and lots of different topics. But if you're talking about text messaging, it's a lot more limited. You're really mostly about confirming appointments or reminders, or if you're trying to reach them during the day when they might be at work, that might be a method to use. Direct mail, a lot of people still like direct mail. It's not the most popular thing. People try to cut back on it. But when people get a letter, they open it, they look at it. Even if they're going to throw it away, most people will still open up a piece of mail first. So lots of different things you can do to communicate with your clients and build that relationship. Here's a couple of ideas of things that maybe you're not doing now, but you might want to consider doing. So reaching out to your clients that you haven't talked to or in over 3 months to see if there's anything that you can help them out with. Sending out quarterly newsletters to build relationships, share any news or updates, especially if you've got new people coming in or new services that you're offering. A newsletter is just a great way to reach out to everybody at once. And not only are you reaching out with a newsletter, but you can also post it up on your website. So now it's another piece of timely content on that website. You can send personalized direct mail greetings when it's holiday time, birthday time, little things to try to stay in touch with everybody. And you can also send automated reminders for upcoming appointments. So got systems that'll say, hey, you're scheduled next week. Don't forget, click here to confirm. Lots of different things that you can be doing. So I promise you we're almost to the end here. One of the things you might want to consider is updating your branding if you haven't done that recently. So your branding really is all about how do you share yourself? How do you come across to your clients and colleagues and even the other people who might be referring your services? Do you have a consistent personality? Do you have colors and images? And what's the feeling impression that people get when they're talking and seeing all the different materials? So updates to your branding might be things like changing out your logo, updating your website completely. Maybe the fonts or the images you don't like anymore, or they're not really reflective of who you are as a business. In some cases, people go through and they'll redecorate their office. They'll give it a whole new facelift, but they'll never think about updating their website also. Maybe you can change out the profile images that you've got on your social networks to help kind of represent who you are today. Especially if you haven't touched them in a few years, it's really a good idea to do that. And then you can also consider, do you need to rewrite your website copy or promotional copy? Same thing. If it's been the same exact stuff for 5 years, there's probably some things that have changed that you can talk about that'll give you a fresh look. It'll help you stand out a little bit more, and it'll also give you kind of a new reason to reach out to people. Haven't you gotten an email from someone that says, hey, we've redesigned our website and added a new blog, go check it out. You can do the exact same thing. So it's something to consider if you haven't done your branding updates in a long time. And then leveraging social media. I find that there are so many people who set up an account and then just kind of forget about it, don't really touch it. So if you're not leveraging social media, we highly encourage you to do that. Even if it's something as simple as once a week, going out, checking it out. There's lots of advantages to using social media. In most cases, we're talking about Facebook because that is the most commonly used social media channel right now. But these things can be done in a lot of different places too. When you're using social media, you can increase your leads, get more referrals, helps generate traffic to your website. When you post up an article or a blog, people click to go and read it. Keeps you top of mind with your existing clients. If they're on Facebook and they're following you and every week or two you post up something on your Facebook, they're going to see, hey, yeah, these guys are on top of it and they've got information I want to read. So lots of different advantages to it. I'm not going to read through all of them for you. Couple things to keep in mind if you are going to get in there, though. Make sure you have a branded cover and a profile picture. Make sure you actually include information about you. So what do you guys do? Who do you serve? What kind of services do you offer? You really want to make sure you carry that through. Put up some posts. Make sure they're engaging. Reply to comments. People love it if they say something, and even if all you do is reply back with a thanks. They feel heard and they feel like you care. Mix up what it is that you're posting between educational and promotional, and then invite clients to like the page. One of the other things that people don't really think about when they're thinking about their social media pages too is the review site. So you can see in the little image here, this person has got 4.5 stars. It's a great way to collect reviews. And when people say, hey, I'm looking for an accountant, do you guys know anybody? They can refer you and they can tag your page. So it's easy for that person who is asking for the referral to go and check you out. And it's not only them, it's everybody who's in their network that actually sees that stuff and will go check it out. That's how I learn about new places all the time. So finally, if you haven't tested any new strategies in the last year, we highly encourage you to try, at least one new thing. I wouldn't try too many new things at once because that will be overwhelming. It'll be hard to really understand where all the different results are coming from. But these are all the different things that we find people use, and they use it successfully. So I talked a little bit about probably half the things on this list. But, YouTube is one of those channels that people are doing videos on and finding good success. And those YouTube videos can be embedded on your own website. They can be shared on your social media channels. It's just a great way to engage with people that you might not have gotten just by writing an article. Trying to encourage referrals by putting together a loyalty program for your existing clients. There's just a lot of different things. So I always like to make sure everybody's just thinking, what else could I do? Or what does my competitor do that I should try? Maybe they're having great success and I need to try it also. So I know I went through a lot of information. So I've got time now to answer any questions that you have. As a reminder, on your GoToWebinar, you can just type in, there should be a question window, just type in those questions and hit send. If I don't get into any questions, I will be watching those after the session closes and I'll get back to everybody with answers. And while I let you guys type those in, we are CPA Site Solutions. We offer website design, pay-per-click advertising, social media management, appointment reminders, search engine optimization. We work with over 7,000 accountants to help out with websites and all of their online marketing needs. So feel free to reach out to us if you want more information about what we can do for you. So a couple questions. A few people were asking about the slides and recording. We recorded this. We do have the slides. We'll be sending those out tomorrow morning to everybody. So you can share those or go back and review them again. And it looks like most of the questions. So I know I went a little bit on the longer side. If anybody has anything else, when you get that email tomorrow, feel free to reply back to it and send in any questions you thought of after the fact. We're always here to answer and help you out. So I want to thank everybody for joining us and have a great day. Actually, sorry, I'll sneak in one more. There's one more question that just snuck in here. How do you overcome the increased trend by Google not to provide keywords? It shows it via anonymous search. So back in the beginning, I mentioned that you want to make sure you have Google Analytics and Google Search Console set up. So Search Console is the way that you're actually going to be able to get to that. Through the Search Console, it'll actually show you the keywords that your website's showing up for, which you cannot get through Google Analytics anymore. It's really easy. If you search Google Search Console, it'll pop up, or I think Google Webmaster Tools is what they used to call it. And somebody asked if we provide social media post assistance. We do. That's one of the services that we offer. So I can have somebody give you a little bit more information about that. And I think that's good. So I want to thank everybody. And this is great. I hope you all had a good afternoon. Thanks.